Okay, we have
Hi!
to play Never Have I Ever.
I love this game. Okay, let's do it.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so, never have I ever.
Wait, is this recording?
Oh my gosh. Ah, we
I don't
cannot
want
do
to play.
this. Oh
Okay.
my goodness.
Well, speaking of Never Have I Ever, have you seen the new Netflix series Never Have I Ever?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I watched it the other day.
So good.
Hilarious. I loved it.
I think I binged it in maybe a day and a half.
Literally.
It was
It was so
amazing.
quick. It was
It
so good.
was amazing.
Oh my goodness. So, never have I ever. That's our Ship or Snip episode for today. How convenient. So, my name is Cody. I'm a youth advocate here at Fearless Hudson Valley.
And I'm Renee. I'm another youth educator at Fearless Hudson Valley.
And welcome back
Welcome back.
to our episode. Never Have I Ever is a story about an Indian American woman or girl in high school who kind of follows her journey of exploring who she is. It also takes place in the fall, right after her dad has died. Her dad died in a high school band concert when she was playing her harp. And so that was really traumatic for her. So traumatic that she became paralyzed. She couldn't move her legs for a long time.
Legs down.
Today we are talking about Davy, Fabiola, and Eleanor, a three-person friendship. They are in high school and they are kind of like the nerds of the class. They're sophomores, so they have just moved on from being freshmen, and Davy is trying to relentlessly pursue her coolness and her popularity, and is really trying to rebrand the three friends as something cool and popular and something that is not referred to as the UN, which is a nickname that was given to them.
Um, what was so great about watching this show and watching these three characters, Davy, Fabiola, and Eleanor, was just the growth that happens individually, but also between them in the relationship. It was truly something to watch. It was great. And it reminded me a lot of when I was in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like this three person triangle is like something that's really common in high school relationships, but also in like adult friendships and things like that. And trying to navigate the dynamics of three people in friendships can be really challenging and really hard, especially when you are also trying to figure out yourself and who you are. And yeah. So, if we're thinking about the 10 signs of a healthy relationship and the way that they might show up in Never Have I Ever, I think it's important for us to think about honesty.
Yeah.
Basically, just something that's free of deceit or something that's sincere. And I'm wondering, Renee, what if we were thinking about an unhealthy relationship? What might be something that we could focus on?
I would say the concept of deflecting responsibility is definitely present from the 10 characteristics of unhealthy relationships. We see deflecting responsibility in the relationship between Davy, Fabiola, and Eleanor. And what deflecting responsibility is, it's actually blaming somebody else for the action at hand or for the consequence of that action. So when we deflect responsibility, we're saying that it wasn't on us, it was somebody else's fault. So it's placing blame or fault on other people.
Yeah, I can't wait to like kind of dive in.
I
Should we
know.
go for it and just see what
Let's go
happens?
for it. Absolutely. What's
Amazing.
stopping us?
Yeah, true. All right, so let's talk about Davy.
Okay.
So, Renee, do you want to set us up?
Yeah. So like we mentioned earlier, her father just recently passed away. She just gained feeling and mobility in her legs again at the beginning of sophomore year. So she is set out on a mission to elevate her social status and to become cool.
Mhm.
A big theme that I find in Davy's plotline is conflict in challenging times, social pressures, and balancing self-responsibilities with friendships and with relationships. She's on this huge journey of just finding out who she is and what she's about in high school. And she does this by she jumps in and has like an itemized plan, weekly schedule on how to make herself cool, and as well as her friends Fabiola and Eleanor. The number one to do on that list is to get a boyfriend. And something that sticks out in my mind is at one point, Fabiola and Eleanor tell Davy that she just went from being the girl that everybody in school felt sorry for, to somebody that they should be jealous of. And this happens when Davy lies, or I should say, in her words, she says she omits the truth
Yes.
about being in a relationship with like the popular boy named Paxton. So I want to hear some of your thoughts on that issue of Davy's relationship, non-relationship with Paxton, and how that influences her friendship with Fabiola and Eleanor.
Yeah, I think Davy is like so like narrow-minded right now because she like really like wants to shed this reputation from herself. And so,
Yeah.
you know, she had originally chosen another boy to be her boyfriend, but then she like is talking with her therapist and just like goes for it and makes a move on Paxton. And Paxton is like kind of down for it. And so she's like, "What? Me?" And so immediately she's like, "Oh my gosh, like this is my chance. This is where I'm going to get popular. This is like where people are going to be jealous of me." And so when her friends see her talking to Paxton, she kind of like omits the truth, like you said, and like really tries to just like elevate herself in some ways, and like goes along with it because she doesn't want to fall back on being the Indian girl where her dad died and she was like paralyzed and all these like things that people can like conceive about her. And her friends kind of like assume things about her too. Her friends make assumptions and they kind of like jump right in because they're excited for her too. And we see like how that excitement and that um, just like that desire for your friend to be better or to like have the thing that they really want can get you into trouble. And so Fab and Eleanor tell another person in the show, Ben, about their relationship with Paxton. And while their intent was good, it ended up backfiring in the end of the show when Paxton like realized about the lie. And I think it's like really important, and I think we'll talk about it a little bit more in a little bit, but the difference between intent and impact and how those
Yeah.
things are like really separate and can really like you can have like pure intentions, but the impact of that can be really negative.
Yeah. And the whole time I was watching Davy pursue this, I call it a non-relationship, but some sort of friendship relationship thing with Paxton. It was so frustrating for me to watch because you could see Fabiola and Eleanor desperately needing her friendship,
Hmm.
and Davy's determination to elevate her social status at any cost almost sacrifices her friendship with Fabiola and Eleanor. And she notices that she can't go on without their friendship, right? Like there were a few times at when she threw that big sleepover, or it's just the girls, that was her trying to rebuild that bond that she noticed she was kind of breaking when, instead of hanging out with Fabiola and Eleanor, she would go try to be with Paxton. She was dropping a lot of friendship responsibilities to become that perfect potential girlfriend. But what we could also see was that Paxton and Davy weren't going to have that kind of relationship because, one, Paxton wasn't interested, and Davy knew that. Davy knew he wasn't interested in her in being his girlfriend. And unfortunately, instead of telling her friends that, no, we are not dating, we are not seeing each other, she allowed them to believe that they were, which, like you said, ultimately backfired and cost her relationship with Paxton, cost her relationship with Fabiola and Eleanor, cost her relationship with the character Ben for a while. It was really hard to see in general, just the deterioration of relationships and bonds in order to gain a social status and have a good, be perceived by others in a very, very specific light.
Yeah. But when you were talking about the deterioration of relationships, I think it's really important for us to also to talk about how their relationship was mended in the end of the show. So there's a scene where Davy is not wanting to go with her mom and her cousin to go spread her dad's ashes. And when called upon, Fab and Eleanor still show up. And I think that speaks to like a real level of friendship and a real level of commitment to one another when you're angry or you're upset or you're hurt by your friend or your partner, and you're still able to show up and support them in that way. Because you know that like at the end of the day, those things matter and those things are important, and you care about that other person.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's hard to only talk about Davy without talking about Fabiola and Eleanor.
Yeah, I think we can't separate the two.
Yeah.
Three, I guess I should say. Because they are so like tied and everyone has their own perspective, right? Yeah. And that's how it is in real life too. Every friend has their own perspective, their own thoughts, what they're bringing to the friendship. And so for Fab, let's walk through her story a little bit. So Fab is entering 10th grade along with them. She's really into robotics and is like super like talented and really smart, and she's in 10th grade and like already in AP classes, and I think it's just like really amazing. And so in their like process, Davy chooses Alex Gomez as Fab's like potential boyfriend. And so they go on like a date or whatever, but then Fab sees this new girl, Eve, on the stairway. She's looking beautiful as ever. And and so they like are kind of like, they get thrown into a group project together, and Fab like kind of is like, I don't know. And then Eve like makes a comment about going to like an LGBTQ event, and Fab's like, oh no, I think you got the wrong idea about me, and like really kind of pushing it off. But like you can tell by like Fab's, the way that she's showing up, that maybe like she might be interested and like she might want to, but she doesn't know how to. And so she's kind of like going through and kind of like recognizes that she's not really into Alex Gomez and might be into Eve, and is trying to like wrestle with that a bit. And I'm wondering, Renee, can you like share what happens next?
Yeah, so like a big thing, the first time Fab comes out in the movie, and that's when she's alone with her robot named Brosnan, I think, and she like programs the robot to say, I am gay, and you can see on her face this like, yes, that's me. And big sigh of relief and acceptance, but she's still moving forward. She still doesn't know how to come out to her parents, her sibling. She doesn't know how to come out to her friends. She doesn't know how to come out to the world. And one thing that struck me with that was the concept of coming out, and what and who is coming out, and why is it only LGBTQ people that have to come out? It's that heteronormative assumption that everybody is straight until you're not.
Yeah.
And we really saw that process within Fab's story. And as she came out one by one to, first it was Eleanor, after the robot, after the robot, it was Eleanor. And she really, her coming out to Eleanor was definitely cathartic for her, of course, but it was also a way to show support for Eleanor in a really hard time for her as well. And Eleanor mentioned something about family secrets being hidden, or like secrets being hidden from family members. And Fab takes that as an opportunity to say, well, you know, I have a secret. I'm gay. And Eleanor just like bursts with the biggest smile. She's so happy for her, just showing so much love and support for her friends. And that is exactly what Fabiola needed in that moment, and just needed in general, because there was such terror of and fear of being rejected by the people that she loved. And she learned little by little that there was nothing to be afraid of. Everybody loved her and accepted her for who she was, which is like the best coming out story you could ever hope for. When after she comes out to Eleanor, her and Eleanor then want to tell Davy. They want to talk to Davy about their issues, about their problems that they're having. And Davy she doesn't answer the phone. And the next day at school, Davy yelled at them and said that she had the bigger problems, that her problems were more important. And that was a clear line of rejection, I think, for Fabiola, and something that she was very afraid of. And that brings us back to something we discussed with Davy, is this balancing of ourselves and other friendships, and just balancing friendships in general. How many can we have? How do we prioritize people, ourselves, and others all together?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that whole thing is like a really clear picture of what coming out can look like, especially in high school.
Yeah.
And I think that it really challenges people to think about, like, okay, yeah, like in a friendship, you're going to have competing priorities. You're going to have competing things that seem like the world. And so how do you manage that? How do you prioritize? How do you receive support if you need it, but also give support at the same time?
Yeah.
Those are like really hard questions, but also like it's part of like that balancing act that you were talking about. How do you how do you support someone that is on their journey, but also like receive support when you need it? And figuring that out can be really challenging, especially in a relationship where you feel like maybe there's like two people against one at points.
Yeah.
Or yeah, and I think that what we see there is we see like a breakdown, and like kind of Davy feeling like she's on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
because of statements that Eleanor and Fab had made, where she's like, people like see you as something to pity, and
Yeah.
now you are something to be jealous of. And then when that comes crashing down, like, where does that leave Davy?
Exactly.
And how do Fab and Eleanor play a role in that? And how does Davy not show up in a good way for Fab when she needs it, or Eleanor when she needs it too?
It was heartbreaking, really, to see how both Davy and Fabiola and Eleanor, every single one of them, needed so much support
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. And it it just didn't match up. They couldn't figure out how to, like you said, give and receive support. And I don't even know if I know the answer to that one.
I know it's
Like,
really hard.
honestly.
It's really hard. It's really hard. I think that kind of like leads us really nicely into like Eleanor's story and her perspective
Yeah.
and what she's bringing. So Eleanor is kind of like seeing someone.
Yeah.
So
Secretly.
yeah, secretly because she doesn't want Davy to know. So
Yeah.
she's seeing someone during the summer. Davy finds out in the fall and is kind of like upset because she's like, "Oh, why are you keeping this from me?" And Eleanor's response to that was, "Oh well, we didn't want to upset you with your legs and stuff." And so that's just like another way that Davy feels like cut off from Fab and Eleanor. And kind of like what transpires from there is Eleanor and Fab are going to a Mexican restaurant and they see Eleanor's mom, who is not supposed to be there. She is supposed to be on a cruise boat
Yeah. In
performing.
Mexico.
Right, right. And so Eleanor is very upset and is like, I don't even want to speak to her. I don't want to talk to her. And Davy and Fab is like kind of like supportive in that and like, okay, let's like take our time. Let's, do whatever you're comfortable with. And when Davy learns like that Eleanor's mom is here, Davy's like, oh, I'm gonna fix it because this is how I'm gonna get back in with Fab and Eleanor. And so she goes to her mom and like kind of breaks her boundaries there and goes to her mom, talks her into coming to school and like surprising Eleanor on the spot. In the end, Eleanor's mom sees Eleanor performing and is like, I gotta go. I gotta go pursue my dream. And
Yeah.
just like up and leaves and doesn't
Again.
tell Eleanor. And Eleanor is crushed by this. She's like, I thought like me and my mom were like finally getting into a good groove and is really upset. And so is like in the band room and Fab goes to find Davy to like come and support. And Davy ends up choosing Paxton's emergency, which ended up being like not that big a deal in comparison. But Davy chooses Paxton, and that's kind of like where that riff happens, like that the final cut. And I think it like in that scene it like shows what we were talking about earlier, where like there's impact or there's intent and there's impact.
Yeah.
And what's the difference? Because Davy's intent on like seeking out Eleanor's mom was really pure. And it was like, oh, I'm gonna like do this really great thing because Eleanor like definitely loves her mom. And I know that Eleanor's mom loves her. But what we see is the impact. And like Eleanor gets crushed again by her mom. And I think it's really important that we set that up and we know that sometimes our intentions are good, but the impact is really bad. And how do we make amends? How do we fix that? How do we like say I'm sorry in a relationship when we mess up or when we make mistakes? There's always, all relationships are going to have conflict. It's just inevitable. But it's like how we work through that conflict and how we like make amends is what really matters.
Yeah. And I think ultimately there was such amazing support that was given and received by all three of these characters, but every single time it just came a little too late. It came after the beat where it should have been, right? And I can't help but wonder if there was greater honesty, like outright honesty and in the moment honesty, if a lot of these issues could have been avoided.
Yeah.
You talked earlier about that scene towards the end of the movie where they're finally coming together and mending their relationship. And a big part of that was finally Davy acknowledging how she was absent for Eleanor. Because Davy and Fab kind of already approached their issue of Davy wasn't there for Fab when she wanted to come out. And that was already in some ways resolved. but there wasn't any discussion about how Davy kind of in some ways also abandoned Eleanor when she was needing support over being abandoned by her mother. That was a huge deal. And but in that conversation, we really saw such an amazing discussion of friendship and learning how to show up for one another. And when we did get those moments of amazing support, those were some goals to have, to see that for Fab, she was accepted for who she is, no matter who she loved. For Davy, that she was loved for despite dropping her friends, and when she needed help, she received help. She was great no matter what social status she was. And for Eleanor, that she didn't need just her mother's love, she had so much love from her friends.
Yeah.
And she was loved and encouraged to pursue her own dreams.
Yeah. So beautiful, right? So great. Yeah, I think that you mentioned it in the beginning, but there was such a incredible growth from all the characters, and it was just renewed for season 2. So I am super excited to see what's gonna happen in season 2.
Me too. Is this gonna be like junior year then?
I don't know.
I don't know. I really hope so.
Same.
I really hope so.
So
there are 2 questions that that we wanted to talk about and pose to you all, the viewers. The first one being, and we kind of mentioned them earlier, but how do you balance giving support and receiving support when you have something challenging come up, as well as the other person in the relationship?
Yeah. And the other question that we had was, how do you find the balance between self and others? How do you find that theme of balance, between who you are and the things that you're experiencing and your responsibility to yourself, but also how do you do that for a friend or to a partner, or how do you show up in spaces? You need support, and other people need it too.
Yeah, absolutely. These are great questions, and I'm excited for any and all answers because
Comment below.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All right, everybody. I think that pretty much wraps us up on Never Have I Ever.
Yeah, I hope if you haven't seen the show, I hope you see it. It's really great, and it kind of expands a little bit more into all their characters, but we wanted to really focus on these specific things. We're not gonna ship or snip. That's up to you. And
it's high school.
Yeah, right? It's high school. There's another season. We don't know what their relationship was like before, so we just can't ship or snip here.
Exactly. But thank you all for joining and watching.
Yeah, thanks. We'll see you soon, okay?
Bye.